Hello, detectives, and welcome to the Forensics Lab. It is I, the box-to-box investigator, as we uncover another case file, this time surrounding a player from Morocco known as Ayyoub Bouaddi, a player who has recently made a lot of headlines and has caught the attention of numerous pundits, given his recent performances. However, is the hype surrounding him really worth it? Let's place him under a microscope. So Bouaddi is currently 18 years old and he is playing for Lille, a team that finished third overall in League One during the 25-26 season. So at 18 years of age, he's actually commanding a lot of respect with his overall performances because he serves as a regular starter for both Morocco as well as Lille. So given that level of responsibility or the number of minutes he has, so there is a lot of upside and potential regarding his growth and progress. He currently stands at 6'1" tall, so that height could be an asset that teams could further utilize. Currently, his transfer value is around 50 million euros, and this could increase, especially given his recent outing in the World Cup. It could be increased around 70, 80, and I wouldn't be surprised if it reaches 100 million given his overall performances. Let's take a look into his statistical data under Lille. Now, in terms of his defensive work rate, it's actually pretty solid so far. He's won a huge percentage in terms of duels at 67%. Really, it gets a high remark. Even the pizza chart would actually support that claim. He's won a lot of ground duels. He's also pretty solid in terms of tackling as well. His tackle win percentage is already around above average. So as you can see, his overall defensive work rate has been pretty solid indeed. In terms of what's interesting about Bouaddi is his ability to dribble the ball. As you can see, he produces a lot of dribbles based on the pizza chart, and his dribble percentage is actually really solid as well. So he is a player who's not shy in terms of having the ball at his feet and then carrying it forward. However, it's also notable that he's not a player who, even though he's actually active in terms of dribbling, he's not someone who would push really further forward in terms of dribbling the ball, especially when you look into his statistics in progressive carries. Now let's take a look at his passing game, and this is something that he actually needs to work on because his pass percentage overall is not that good. And if you look at his ability to conduct long passes, I mean, it's a really high percentage at 96%. However, he doesn't really commit to a lot of long passes. So he's sort of leaning towards the safety net. He's not someone that you could rely on in terms of progressive passing. And let's take a look at his statistics in the recent 2026 FIFA World Cup. On the left is his heat map, and as you can see, there's a deep collar in terms of this area of the zone, which is understandable because he's a defensive midfielder. And as you can see, he's really committed with his defensive duties. But at the same time, if you look at the heat map as well, he has some sort of there's some deep collars further upfield on the right. So he is definitely a player who's willing to push the ball further forward. And this is also evident in terms of the progressive carries map, where there's a lot of activity in terms of moving the ball upfield on the right flank compared to the left. However, there is a level of inconsistency with his ability to progress the ball. This is his take-ons map in the World Cup. As you can see, there are some successful dribbles against defenders in the deeper areas. However, there are some notable moments where he loses the ball in his defensive zone. And this is going to be very integral because that actually means that there could be moments where he becomes vulnerable in terms of receiving the ball and trying his best to dribble past defenders. It can be argued that he does take some risks regarding regarding dribbling, in terms of like dribbling the ball past defenders, especially in the deeper areas, which could potentially lead to dangerous opportunities for the opposition. But do note that when you watch Bouaddi perform in the World Cup, yes, there were some shaky moments or nervy moments, but he's a sort of player who's willing to move forward and like keep on like doing what he does best, which is like to try to dribble the ball further upfield. So as an 18-year-old, he still has that confidence to trust on his instincts, despite some of the flaws that he displayed in the World Cup. In terms of defensive actions in the World Cup, Bouaddi has been phenomenal. He has won a lot of like defensive duels, even against teams that have boasted a lot of offensive talent, such as Brazil and the Netherlands. And even against France, well, Bouaddi was able to produce some sort of like 50-50 defensive output. Take note, these are three teams that really pride themselves of having a lot of attacking talent, and for Bouaddi to be able to potentially starve them off just really shows his overall like work ethic on the defensive end. And this is further supported with the expected threat prevented in the World Cup. As you can see, the deeper colors show that Bouaddi has actually defended the key areas really well. Take note that these zones are inside the penalty area. And outside the penalty area, he's even made sure that zone 14, which is also a crucial position for the opposition to score goals, is actually well defended by Bouaddi. And not only does he defend the central areas well, he can even serve as a reliable support to his teams, to his own right back, as you can see from the expected threat prevented in this side. So overall, he's very reliable as a defensive specimen based on the expected threat that he has prevented in the World Cup. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is one aspect in his game that needs to be improved, and that is his passing. As you can see in the World Cup, he boasts a 90% pass accuracy, which is, by the way, really good. However, if you dig deep into his pass map, you can see that he has tendencies to pass the ball either to the left or to the right. I mean, he can progress the ball with his passing, but once he moves further forward, one thing that's noticeable is that he does have tendencies to also pass the ball either to the left or to the right up front. And this is further supported by his pass sonar map, where majority of his passes are more leaning towards the left or to the right. And this is something that he needs to work on if he wants to bring his game as a defensive midfielder to the next level, where as much as possible, you want to try to be an option in terms of progressive passing. So in conclusion, Bouaddi is a very confident dribbler and ball carrier. And the fact that he's willing to push the ball forward or challenge defenders, even though he gets pressured a lot, or even though he had some minor hiccups as seen in the World Cup, shows his confidence as an 18-year-old is really commendable. He's also very active defensively, as seen with his ability to protect the penalty area, zone 14, and even the right side of the pitch. However, he is not really a progressive passer, as he tends to lean more towards a safety net by moving the ball either to the left or to the right. And because of that weakness or that loophole, he needs to be paired with a deep lying playmaker. And with Lille and with Morocco, he has a deep lying playmaker with him. And because of the certain issues that Bouaddi has, if he's going to make the switch to a big team, this is a factor that teams and Bouaddi need to take into consideration, because Bouaddi isn't really a player who you can rely on in terms of delivering through balls or long passes, and therefore you need someone that could actually mask his weaknesses. And a DLP, specifically a veteran DLP, could aid Bouaddi. And take note that that player could also be a potential mentor for Bouaddi. Take note that he's 18 years old, and that DLP with veteran experience could actually help him improve his passing game. So, Given the what we mentioned about Bouaddi, given his strengths and weaknesses, let's assess some possible destinations. Now, these are actually what I saw in social media about Bouaddi, about teams that are going after him. So let's take a look at the options that have been rumbling around Ayyoub Bouaddi. One of them is Manchester United. Now, Manchester United could be a good opportunity for Bouaddi because if you look at Bouaddi, since he's not really a player who can be relied upon in terms of long passing, maybe Bouaddi can actually try to work on his short passing game under Michael Carrick. Based on the statistics that I've shown, he needs to really refine his passing game. But with Michael Carrick, where you have players like Kobe Mainu, who's willing to support Casemiro, or Bruno Fernandes, who also likes to support Casemiro, there could be like some angles where Bouaddi can like further progress the ball. So maybe this could be an opportunity for him to shine. However, take note that under Michael Carrick, Casemiro, even though he has the reliable support of players like Kobe Mainu and Bruno Fernandes, there's one distinct feature in Casemiro's game that could actually further elevate Manchester United. And this distinct feature is something that is missing with Bouaddi, which I will show later. The other concern I have with Bouaddi is the current setup in terms of United's midfield. It's a battle between youth versus experience because Casemiro is gone and Andre Santos has just entered in. So you have Andre Santos, Ayyoub Bouaddi, and Kobe Mainu. You have three developing midfielders in your lineup. So this might not be a good experience or a good environment for Bouaddi. So I did mention about Casemiro versus Bouaddi. Let's take a look at an attacking perspective. No doubt Casemiro would edge Bouaddi in terms of like overall attacking because Casemiro has scored a lot of goals and set pieces during the 25-26 season for Manchester United. In terms of defending, Bouaddi has actually won more tackles. I mean, if we're looking at percentages, like he's edged Casemiro in tackles won, aerials won, ground duels won, overall duels. So that's a good sign, but take note that he's playing in League One. It's unknown if these percentages will be the same once he makes that leap to the Premier League, where everything else is completely different. In terms of passing, and this is something that I was referring to, that the one edge that Casemiro has that could elevate Manchester United. Yes, Michael Carrick has tendencies to go for like short passing sequences where you have players move toward Casemiro and then Casemiro just like give some short passes to either Bruno Fernandes and Kobe Mainu. However, there are moments when Casemiro would try to do something different, where he would go for through balls and long passes, forward long passes to be specific. It's either Casemiro or Bruno Fernandes who does that for Manchester United. And this is something that Bouaddi lacks. Yes, his long pass percentage is higher compared to Casemiro, but take note that Casemiro takes more risks when it comes to long passing and through balls compared to Bouaddi. So this is something that needs to be factored into in case Bouaddi goes into Manchester United. Like, yeah, Casemiro gives you that long ball option, even though Carrick's system revolves around pass and go sequences with Kobe Mainu, Bruno Fernandes, and Casemiro. So this is something that needs to be considered. However, Bouaddi can bring something different because, as you can see, in terms of dribbling, he is someone who is really confident, as I mentioned earlier, and the statistics versus Casemiro would prove that otherwise. So he could be a potential asset for the Michael Carrick pass and go sequence. Now, we did talk about the youth, and this is evident with the statistics that is being displayed here regarding Andre Santos. Now, Andre Santos is viewed to be a deep-lying playmaker for Manchester United. And as I mentioned earlier, Bouaddi needs a deep-lying playmaker. But there's also the consideration of his overall statistical output. Andre Santos, as you can see, based on statistics, is a player that is still in development when it comes to the deep lying playmaking role. His pass percentage, his overall passes is really good. However, his long pass percentage and his long passes is somewhat questionable as of this moment. So this is important because as of now, given the current predicament of Manchester United in terms of midfielders, they don't really have a long pass option in the deep midfield areas. Kobbie Mainoo, Andre Santos, if ever Ayyoub Bouaddi comes into Manchester United, and then Ederson, although I'm not sure if Ederson is really going to go to Manchester United or not, given the recent rumors surrounding whether he passed the medical or not. But anyway, what's common about these midfielders that I mentioned is none of them are players that you can really bank on or rely on when it comes to the long passing game. So this is something that that is a hole that Manchester United needs to resolve. As you can see from the overall data itself, Andre Santos isn't really a fully fleshed out deep lying playmaker. So this could be problematic for Bouaddi because he needs someone. He's an 18-year-old that needs a veteran deep lying playmaker who can really influence the game if you want to get the best of Ayyoub Bouaddi. Another team that Bouaddi has been linked on heavily is Liverpool, and I would say that this team is much better suited for Bouaddi. The reason is because if you look at Liverpool's midfield setup last season, they sort of lack that sort of physical presence, especially when you have McAllister and Gravenberch playing together. And because of that lack of physicality, sometimes Arne Slot uses Dominic Szoboszlai to be that Swiss Army knife midfielder, just so Liverpool could actually gain that sort of like physical presence in that midfield lineup. And Bouaddi could actually be used as a solution to that absence. And he could fit well with Andoni Iraiola's system, because if you look at how Iraola plays with Bournemouth, he would use his midfielders, especially his deep midfielders, to be active around and pressing the opposition. And Bouaddi's defensive numbers have already proven that he is capable of producing that defensive output. Now, since Bouaddi isn't really known as a progressive passer, Liverpool has other options that they could alleviate the burden away from Bouaddi in Ryan Gravenberch and Florian Wirtz, so they can serve as a link for Bouaddi. Hence why I actually support Liverpool as a team that Bouaddi could make the leap at. So anyway, that's the case file surrounding Ayyoub Bouaddi. Just let me know your comments, your thoughts, my fellow detectives, on whether Ayyoub Bouaddi has what it takes to go towards the next level. Is he worth going to Manchester United? Is he worth going to Liverpool? Or are there other teams that are worth pondering or reflecting into? The case is still open. The investigations are definitely worth exploring. And see you guys next time on our next investigations inside the Forensics Lab.